Hello everyone, welcome to Tactica Imperialis and to today's video. Today is going to be a my thoughts on video, and today I wanted to talk about Chapter Approved 2018. Now, when I made my last video in my thoughts on about Vigilus Open Day, I was expecting Chapter Approved to be coming out roughly now, to be fair, but I didn't expect it to be coming out the same week as Vigilus Defiant, the campaign book, the new Marnius Calgar, and all of the stuff that's going on with that. And I put a little disclaimer in the description of that video, basically saying I don't agree with them being out on the same week, because one will overshadow the other. One way or another, for a bit of time, one will overshadow the other, and if you've got to choose between buying two books, like, I don't know. I think Vigilus Defiant should have waited until either the last release of 2018 or the first release of 2019. That's just my opinion. But they're out this coming weekend, I believe. Or they're going to be on pre-order or something. I can't keep up. I'm a bit busy with uni right now. But I do want to talk quickly about what we are getting in Chapter Approved, because to me, that represents sort of what state the game is going to be in a little bit more, because Vigilus Defiant obviously has a lot in it in terms of its formation, returning thing, the huge lore developments that I'm very excited to read, and everything else. I do think there's a lot there, but from a gameplay standpoint, I think there's more in Chapter Approved, so that's what we're going to talk about. So, we'll start off with probably the thing I personally care about the least, and that's the Sororitas Beta Codex, because I don't know, I don't have a particular fondness for sisters. I'm glad to see them back, and I think the Beta Codex idea is excellent, but I don't care as much as probably some others do about the sisters. I'm not going to be going out and buying a sisters army, I'm not going to be playtesting them or anything like that. So, to go over it very briefly, there is a full proper codex here. So Acts of Faith, which is sort of their faction ability. So basically they're prayers, effectively. So you generate prayer point or faith points, then roll d6, I'm assuming, and on a 5+ in this case, it goes off and you get an ability, which in this case is fight twice in the combat phase, which is pretty useful, but we'll have to see how powerful the full roster is. I know, by the way, there have been a lot of leaks regarding Chapter Approved, and so I know that some people are better informed than I am in this position, but it's going to be interesting to see quite how good or not good they are. But for once, we can say, well, if it does suck, or if it is overpowered, we know it's going to get patched, because this is just a beta. So, I think it's pretty decent. So how does it work? You get an additional faith point for every 10 models with the Acts of Faith rule in your force. Oh geez, that's going to scale up really fast. It's going to encourage infantry builds as opposed to very elite Seraphim, Exorcist, Penitent Engine builds. It will encourage having a few Battle Sister squads, Dominion squads, and I think it's Celestian squads, are sort of like the fast Retributor squads, I think, are the heavy weapon variant. So that's cool. I think that's a good idea to sort of ground the Sisters' force in what its core army is. So yeah, quite on board with that. Order Convictions, effectively chapter tactics. So you get 6+ Feel No Pain. And they also have a 6+ Invulnerable save that all Sisters of Battle have. So, okay, 6-up followed by a 6-up. Right, cool. Add 1 to Tests of Faith rolls. That could be quite strong. Though again, as I say, we have to see what the full roster of devotions and acts of faith are before we really get anywhere with that. Suffer Not the Witch, good, thematic, Adeptus Sororitas, tied to the Order Hereticus, they target Psychers, works perfectly. Command point, shooting all fight phase, get rerolls to wound, out. And give Storm Bolters -1 AP and damage 2. Oh, actually, -2 AP. I don't know if Storm Bolters are base -1 AP, but flip. That's going to hurt if you have a unit with Storm Bolters. I don't know how common Storm Bolters are going to be, but ow. Vessel of the Emperor's Will. Character, Act of Faith goes into an aura. Okay, so turn Act of Faith into aura. That's probably going to be very, very useful if the Acts of Faith are worth using. So, again, there's a big, big asterisk on the Sister Battle of how good are their Acts of Faith going to be, as well as how powerful and how costly their units are. But a lot of their stuff seems to be tied to the Acts of Faith, so I think it's going to be important to see how powerful they are before we pass any judgment. Increased range of aura ability, that's dangerous. And a Warlord trait, a 5+ invulnerable save aura within 6 inches, up to 9 inches if you have that relic. Ow, that's unpleasant. That's unpleasant. Aura abilities are probably one of the sleeper power parts of 40k. Obviously, I know they're not the most powerful thing in existence, but the fact that they're there makes characters very, very useful, and increasing aura range is always useful. Like, you put that on the right character if they've got the right auras, and ow, just ow. Penitent Engines get a massive boost, so they get twice fight phase, reroll to hit if it charges, 5+ feel no pain save combined with the invulnerable save that it's going to have from Shield of Faith. It's, yeah, okay. So, to me, the Sororitas, like I say, they're an army I don't particularly care about. In terms of generically, I don't really care about them. But having said that, I think it's great that they're actually getting a codex, and it's going to go through beta, so it's been properly tested. So it means that when this codex comes out, it's not a dumpster fire, but it's also not going to break the game, hopefully. We'll see what the feedback comes back as and what people think about it. So get your feedback in, because they'll be listening. Now, let's move on. Matched play. Right, this probably is the bit that matters to most people, because most people use match play points, so let's jump in, shall we? New missions. So 12 new missions in the game, 6 Eternal War, 6 Maelstrom of War, which is 6 normal objectives, 6 tactical objectives for those who still don't speak the lingo. That's good, because more missions equals more game variety, equals more fun. It allows them to experiment, because these are not core missions, they're sort of bonus missions. I feel like they can have a lot more fun with these missions if they decide to, although they can also use open and narrative play to do that as well. So I approve of doing that, and they want it to be objective, focused, and balanced. And to do that, they've taken tabling out of those missions, or at least some of them. Yeah. I don't know what to make of acceptable casualties. I'm sorry, I'm just going to get rid of this little pop-up. Acceptable casualties is a rule that I understand, but I also dislike. So it's a good idea because it encourages objective-focused gameplay. It encourages strategic list building to allow your army to claim objectives in a timely manner. It allows you to do all the things that they think 40k probably is about. It's faster, it's focused on the objectives of the mission, it's about playing the mission, playing your opponent as well, and using your army's potential to its fullest. That's brilliant. However, there are games, and you get this in both 40k and Age of Sigmar, where you get put into a position where your only way to win is to table. It may be a case of it's turn 3, your opponent got a quicker start because their army is optimized for speed, they're like 10 points ahead, and they've done a bit of damage, so your units are realistically or perhaps numerically not able to make those points up. Now, in a normal mission, you don't have acceptable casualties in play, which means that you can push and change your stratagem to, okay, I can't win an objective, let's just try and table. Because that's all you can do. You don't have a choice but to table, otherwise you just lose. So it might be, alright, it's the end of my turn 3, so what's the score? 12-1. How did that happen? Oh, I now can't win. Well, I guess I'll have to table you then. Nope, the mission doesn't let you. So it encourages you to be very ballsy with your units and just chuck them about to get the points, because the points are what matters. Which is fine, but it will cut games shorter because some armies are not optimized to play that way and don't have a way to be built that allows them to play that way, which means that they end up just basically auto-losing. And it will also mean that list building becomes a little bit less diverse, I'm worried about, because if the only way to win is to play the objective, I mean, fine, I don't disapprove of that style of gameplay, but if I just want to take a fun thematic army that probably isn't great as objectives but is beautifully themed and is very good at smashing face, I now can't win by just smashing face, even though my army is designed for smashing face, which sucks a little bit. So hopefully the acceptable casualties missions don't become the full rotation of tournament missions, and hopefully there's enough variety of missions that having the option to pivot into going for the table or trying to get those last gasp clutch tables to win the game is still in the game, because I wouldn't like a game where going for a table isn't a valid win condition. It's a last resort win condition, but it should be a valid win condition, in my opinion. We then have a mission example for Eternal War, which is Narrow the Search, and this one does have acceptable casualties. So there's a relic on the battlefield, and it's hidden behind a null field, and the battlefield gets more and more constricted, zeroing in. So yeah, player who controls the objective marker scores a victory point. At the end of about around this distance of control is 18 inches and it shrinks every round. So within 12 inches, So you have to get closer and closer to the objective in order to continue to hold the objective. But at the same time, standing near the objective means you don't get an invulnerable save, because that's the null field bit, which is interesting. And I like this idea of a mission that plays with thematics, that you're digging out this relic and you're zeroing in on it as you go, because it will gradually force armies to come together. And this is an army that a non-objective focused army might actually stand a chance of winning by just punching its way through and or castling up. So good, I approve of that. New points. There's been a lot of points, and most of these got leaked. I think my Discord server is crawling with the leaks. So Necrons have had pretty decent changes. Grey Knights apparently have had sweeping changes to their points, but apparently a lot of weapons have also received point changes that has actually shafted them even more. Like, I saw a forum post this morning that said Grey Knights have actually got worse out of chapter approved despite the point changes, purely because things like plasma have got even cheaper. So I don't know, but if you're a Grey Knights player, I'm sorry, it doesn't sound like you've got these sweeping buffs that you thought you'd got. And there's a few others. So Wraith Knights have got cheaper, Cultists have got more expensive, and a few other units have been nerfed with point increases as well. Probably just to try and encourage that list building variety that we want. Just to try and stop it being, right, the only way to play troops in this army is to take this unit. You just have to take this unit because it's point for point better than everything else. So we're going to nerf it a little bit, try and bring them more into line. Fine by me. And the Forge World stuff has been tweaked as well, which is lovely, lovely, lovely. And, well, then we get even more. So the 8, for example. Now, I've banged on about the 8. I've seen their points. They're 1,120 points, though I haven't seen their datasheet yet. They're a single Lord of War slot, which is lovely. However, I know I've said however a few times. The Tau Commander FAQ nerf. I don't know how this interacts with them. How does this work? So, I'm assuming that the 8 are a single datasheet that has the commander keyword, rather than being 8 units, 5 or 6 of which have commander as a keyword. Because if they do it the latter way, you could never take the 8 in a match play game because of the 0-1 constriction on commanders. So, therefore, we assume they're a Lord of War datasheet that has the word commander in its keywords. Fine. Now, how do you put that into a regular army? With great difficulty is the answer, actually, because a Supreme Command attachment requires 3 HQs. Now that's fine, you might say, but what if none of them can be commanders because of the FAQ to the commander keyword? That means you cannot just take a Cold Star, an Ethereal, and a Fireblade, for example. You'd have to take Long Strike, Dark Strider, and a Fireblade. And you have to be very careful if you're trying to build a narratively themed Farsight Enclaves army, because you don't get Ethereals, you don't get any of the named characters. I think your only HQ pick at that point is the Fireblade. Admittedly, I don't recall off the top of my head. I don't actually own the Tau Codex. But from what I recall, that's a little bit unfair, because the only other Lord of War detachment that I can recall is the one that requires you to take 3. And I'm sorry, I'm not taking Storm Surges. Naff off. So, how are these guys going to fit in a match play army without costing you command points to take them as an individual auxiliary detachment, which gives you a -1 command point? I don't know. I don't know in all truth, but I'm hoping that there's something there that allows them to fit in. They're 1120 points. How they'll operate is currently unknown, but with a bunch of signature systems and uniquities about them, I think they're going to be a hell of a lot of fun, and I guarantee you I'll be doing a battle report where I throw the 8 and their drones up against something, because I just find that army hilarious. So that's match play, which is obviously a major part of what 40k players are looking for right now, and I think it's a good set of changes. The introduction of new missions, the point changes, the introduction of new fun stuff like the 8 is great. I am curious about acceptable casualties. I feel like that's a quiet beta for acceptable casualties. Like, can this mission type actually work? And I think it can, but I wouldn't want the entire game to use it, is what I'll say. I realise I'm being a little bit downbeat about Chapter Approved as I bang on here, but I do think that, as much as I love the new missions, and I'll probably test a bunch of them out, I just hope that acceptable casualties doesn't become the norm, because it constricts list building and stops games going long, both of which I quite enjoy. I enjoy fun lists and the long game. So that's just me, but I hope that we don't see that in every mission, though I think its presence is fine. Next up, open play. And we get the looted wagon. Yes. With the Orc Codex out and not containing looted wagons, sad face. They're in Chapter Approved. We've got 3 equivalents, so Chimera sized, Lehman Russ sized, and Baneblade sized, which is excellent to see. So it's not just a case of, hey, I've got this looted Baneblade, it's armor 11, 11, 10, because it doesn't matter how big it was or what it used to be. So this is good to see that the looted wagon is getting some proper love, and hopefully it gets all the customization in the world. Like, I want the data sheet for all of these to be about a page and a half, just because they could take literally zogging anything. It's like, yeah, I've looted this tank. I can take basically whatever its old weapons were, so I should have access to multi-lasers and las cannons. Sure, I'm Blessed Skill 2, but that shouldn't matter. I should be able to take non-orky guns. I'm a little bit concerned that they might not do that, and it'll just be like, oh, take a kill cannon, take a big gun, take some big shooters, take some rocket launchers, take an hard case if it's open top, take some extra armor. I don't know. I want these to be as custom as you can make them, because that's the entirety of the fun of the fair with looted wagons, is just going off the deep end and creating crazy customization. That's what I want from them, and I hope we get that. Narrative campaign, fine. Hero building. So, custom characters allow you to create your own heroes. So they've got psychic ones, stat boosters, weapon boosters, extra rules, whatever it happens to be. They've got a bunch of them. I don't quite know how many different tables it actually is going to come to for what you can do, but hopefully, again, it's just all about as many options as you possibly can is what is important to this, because it's open play. Open play doesn't care about game balance so much, though they do say these are not game-breakingly strong, then okay, apparently not. But it should allow you to go utterly off the deep end and create the most custom, cool characters you can. So I hope it does that, because that will be a lot of fun. And they do make the idea of doing it as progression over a narrative campaign, something that they have to build on in the narrative play segment. I'm not going to cut this out. So we have battle honors, which is basically ranking up your units as a narrative campaign goes on. So you gain points in your campaign based on how your units do, such as killing stuff, controlling objectives, or just turning up, which then levels them up, which is a really cool way of doing it, because the one thing that I will say about Path to Glory and Age of Sigmar is the units that get upgraded are basically arbitrary. It's up to you, the player, to decide who gets the boost. It's not organic in that this unit has done a bunch of stuff in this mission, so they should be boosted by that. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't super matter whether they did something amazing and they did something amazing. I only get to pick one, or maybe two if I've got enough glory points. Now both of them evolve naturally under their own steam, which I think is excellent. So I'm hoping that their rank up abilities will be useful, and I'm hoping that it allows to play the thematics. So excellent. I hope that as much as they don't show it here, there will be faction specific ones as well. Touch wood. They talk about experimental ammunition, and I don't know, I feel like there's enough options in the lore for them to give every faction its own unique thing. Oops. Warrior battle, vehicles, and monsters. So there are different ranks for different types of unit, which is also good to see. Combined with custom characters, as I mentioned, you can go absolutely nuts. Now, Cities of Death. I wasn't expecting to see Cities of Death here, because they're bringing out next year, I believe, Urban Conquest, which is something I talked about in my Vigilus Vigilus Weekender video, or Vigilus Open Day video, I suppose. I think it's so many names. In the Vigilus video I did a couple of weeks ago, I talked about Urban Conquest, which they revealed, which is a map-based city builder narrative campaign, build a city, knock it down sort of thing. And I kind of expected that the rules for Stronghold Assault, Cities of Death, and the like would all be rolled up and put into Urban Conquest so that you could just play all the missions in one place. Now, Stronghold Assault, they talk about it here, was in last year's chapter approved. I'd completely forgotten that, I'll be completely honest. And Cities of Death is the one that gets the look at this time. So, what's Urban Conquest going to contain? Is it going to contain separate Cities of Death rules? Is it going to be copy-paste Cities of Death rules? We don't know exactly how they'll create special missions within Urban Conquest, so that should be interesting to see. And they say they've got a bunch of different missions, which is always lovely. And this is basically Blitz. It's not quite Blitz, but it reminds me a lot of Blitz in that the attacker can't set up reserves. They've got to crash through enemy lines. Although in this case, it's get off the board as opposed to get into the enemy's deployment zone. It's a slightly modified version of Blitz, though obviously you're playing in Cities of Death. The board is a lot denser, a lot more terrain, a lot more barriers, a lot more buildings. So it should be a very interesting mission. And actually, if I had the terrain to play it, I'd very much like to play it, because it looks like a lot of fun. I also got new narrative rules, try in any of your games, such as a deeper cover system. A cover system? I mean, okay, that's cool. Options for concealed deployment, which they had already. Battlefields infested with Xenos beasts and more. Okay, so this reminds me a little bit of Age of Sigmar's sort of narrative play modifiers, in that you can just pick from a list of abilities that the battlefield or certain units or whatever will have in the game, which is really, really cool. I actually quite enjoyed that in Age of Sigmar, that you could basically just build a mission around, okay, here's a battle plan, now let's add some mutations to the game. So let's give it this, let's give it this, let's give it that, and we'll make a really thematic battle out of doing that. So it's not just, okay, we're going to have this battle and it's going to take place in this realm. Now, how do we make this realm come to life in terms of the narrative mission rules? Well, let's add this, this, and this. And if you remember them, which does take some doing, get used to that, it's actually really, really fun. So I'm glad to see that, and I hope that it's as comprehensive as the AOS list is. So that should be fun to see. And that generally is my thoughts on Chapter Approved. I realise that most people have already reviewed it because some people get it early and there's been leaks. But I wanted to talk about it nonetheless because I always look forward to Chapter Approved as a concept because it's a balance pass, it's an introduction to new game types, new missions, it's an introduction to new rules as well, and often some extra modifiers that you don't see coming. Obviously this year it's also a free codex, so if you are someone who's even remotely interested in Systems of Battle, you should probably have a look at it, have a read of it, maybe do some proxy test games just so you can get a feel for the army and then give your feedback to G-Dubs. The only sad thing about the sororities actually is that they won't be getting new units, I don't think, in this, so they don't spoil whatever the new model range is. So that's a little bit of a shame, but I understand it completely from a business perspective. So yeah, I'm looking forward to Chapter Approved. I'm looking forward to using the 8 and probably trying out some of the other missions, as well as if I get time and 40k takes my interest again, because I sort of oscillated off to AOS at the minute. If it takes my interest, trying out the character customization, trying out the narrative rules, and if we had enough terrain, maybe playing a Cities of Death game, though I doubt I'll be doing that just because we don't own the terrain. But that's all for now. I do hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And always interested to see what you have to say. So, thank you very much for watching. This has been Tactica Imperialis, and this has been my thoughts on Chapter Approved 2018. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all again. Bye for now.